What is up, Nickel City Mafia? Welcome to a beautiful Sunday evening. I am joined today by my co-host, as always, Jake Podger, who we missed last week. Jake, how you doing, man? How's that move coming for you?
It's going great. As you can tell, it's not my normal background. I don't have all the TVs going. Unfortunately, I had to do a little takedown of all that stuff. So just temporarily, Mike, we're going to have an even bigger and better man cave in the near future here. So I'm really excited to show you guys. But as of right now, it looks like I'm at a Bills press conference. Had to make it still look somewhat official, but my head is disappearing as we work with this green screen type thing here that I got going on.
Kind of looks like Josh Allen at after a game talking to the
Wow.
press, man. I mean,
Now we're talking.
yeah, love it. Well, listen, we know that we have training camp opening to the public on Wednesday at John Fisher University, which is exciting. We're all excited about that. But that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. Every now and then, a incredible story comes across the news line, comes across social media, and a story that every Bills fan would love to have happen to them. And that's a story, I think it happened about a week ago with a young man, Jason Guenther, who was traveling, I believe, from North Carolina. I'm going to have him give us all the details. Meets Sean McDermott, and then there's just this an adventure. And it's a great story. So let's bring him on, Jake. Let's not wait any longer. Let's bring on Jason right now. Hopefully I said his name earlier right, but here we go. Jason Guenther,
Hey
how you doing,
guys,
sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, extremely well, extremely well. So Jason, appreciate you joining us on a Sunday evening. Know you're a busy person, but man, we heard this story. Jake reached out to me. I'm like, we got to get him on, and so here we are. And so let's just turn it over to you. Talk to us about how that day unfolded for you.
Yeah, so I was coming back from North Carolina. I was in originally I flew into Raleigh, getting there for the Thursday I flew in. Sunday I was scheduled to leave out of Greensboro and fly to Atlanta for, because there's no direct flights from Greensboro to to Buffalo. And as I got from Greensboro to Atlanta, my flight kept getting pushed back. It was scheduled for 3:25, then it went to 5, then I think it went to like 6:30. Um, so eventually it got canceled, and then there was one more flight that was going out of North Carolina, or Atlanta, I mean, at I believe 7-ish. So went over to there. It's around 6:37 to see if I get on that flight. There was 45 people in standby because they were all from the flight that was canceled. And there's some Buffalo people that I knew, and obviously Sean McDermott was over there with his daughter. I'd met him a few times before, but just said hi, good job at the Bills. Good. I like the way you coach. Just a couple words. And so I sat down, everyone was coming up to him asking for pictures. I had a book I was reading, and I was just kind of hanging out. And, he had sat down. We talked for a couple minutes, and, we were just chatting about, life, whatever. And then they did the standby call. None of us got called. People were clapping, the Buffalo thing to do when people got onto the plane. All the ones that didn't were clapping for all the people that did. So it was a pretty cool moment. After I realized I wasn't going to get on the flight, I went to the Delta line, which was, maybe like 300 yards down the terminal, if you would. And so I was standing in line. There's about 80 people in this line because a lot of Delta flights were having issues. And I was about maybe 45 minutes in, and I saw Sean McDermott, go to the end of the line, and I'm about 5 people away from line to talk to the representative. So I waved over Sean, and it took like 4 or 5 attempts because he's like, no, I'm just going to wait here. I'll wait here. And because he was going to be in line for a few hours because he had already booked a flight to Pittsburgh, and he wanted to see if his luggage was going to go to Buffalo, Pittsburgh. So eventually he came over, we started talking. That's when I took that picture with him because I wanted to show my brother, who's a retired Marine Corps Marsoc Raider, who's a Bills fanatic. And, he loves Sean McDermott. He loves everything he's done. So I took that picture. We started talking, and then McDermott's like, yeah, well, I'm going to Pittsburgh if you can get on that flight. He's like, I wouldn't mind at all driving you home, and we could continue our conversation from earlier. And we talked about in what we would talk about coaching and just, life in general. So that's pretty much. And then we got on the flight for Pittsburgh at 8:55, I believe. And then after the flight, we got off, and he rented the car. Me and his daughter, Maddie, went to see if the luggage was there because we didn't really get any clear answers. So.
Well, that's really cool. So a couple of questions before we get into that long ride from Pittsburgh to Buffalo. First of all, did you sit same area on the plane with Sean, or did he sit in first coach and first class and you're in coach, or how'd that situation?
No, so actually, I was in the very last row
Oh wow.
of the plane, and he was only like 3 rows up to the left of me.
Okay.
So and he saw that I got on the plane. He's like, okay, he gave me the thumbs up, and so I put my stuff down. I was on the flight. I had planned on just relaxing and watching a movie because it was a long day, and I ended up a guy next to me that I had met. We were talking, and he turns out he's like a life coach, and so we were just we ended up talking for the whole plane ride too. So I didn't get any rest, and then here I am, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get into a car with Sean McDermott for 3 hours, and coach to coach, like I don't, like I said, and to the news and to other people, I don't really glorifize people, but I do respect Sean for the way he coaches. It's a very exhausting coaching method because I coach the same way. It's so funny when people would say, he would say, trust the process. It truly is a process because you're starting from scratch with every aspect of, team, from culture to coaching staff to support staff to, your brand, if you would. So it doesn't happen overnight. And that's kind of why I was excited, because I'm like, man, I get to really talk to him about, that my coaching style and his coaching style, that it works. So,
Jason, what do you coach? Is it football or?
no, I coach ice hockey. So
Oh,
I
okay.
currently, I currently coach 14U AAA at Nichols, and then I'm a head instructor for Mark Zarbo. And then I have about 20-ish kids in the area that I train privately from 6 years old to professional. And then I also I help out with the JV team at Canisius. And then I have an 18U travel team. So, and then I'm a full-time investigator for a bank, and I
Oh
work at a
wow.
restaurant. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Super busy. I mean,
yeah,
you answered one of my questions, and that was like, because you had mentioned on social media that you had met him a few times before, and I was like,
yeah.
was that just a quick hi, go Bills, love you, Sean, or was that more of a extended conversation? Because look,
No, it
if
was a couple words. Like,
oh wow,
we were in passing somewhere. Like, I think at that one of the ones at the arena maybe or something. Because I do train some of the Sabres, younger kids, little kids, like they have 6 and 7 year olds, and I know some of the guys that play, and so like I'm at rinks a lot. Like he's a familiar face, I'm a familiar face when it comes to in the hockey world. So we were, I think it was at the Harbor Center maybe. I think he went to watch something, and I just said, hey, nice job at the Bills. Because I coached for 5 years the head strength coach of the Bills, Eric Ciano's two twin boys, Jack and Brady. So I've coached them they've been on my travel team. This would have been their 5th year, but they're stepping away from travel hockey so they can focus on football, and they play school hockey too. So
that's awesome. I mean, he must have felt comfortable with you, because both Jake and I have young kids, and if I'm traveling back and I'm going with this stranger on a 3.5 hour ride, I have to trust this person. So Jake, I know I've
yeah.
been asking most of the questions. What are the questions you have, sir?
Yeah, no. Well, first off, I just want to say, Jason, your energy, your attitude, it's infectious, and I mean that in the best way possible. I freaking love it, man.
I
Like
appreciate
my
that.
vibes are way up just talking to you right now. So
Thank
I
you.
can tell you're a very high energy, good players coach. Are you on the sideline? You're on the rink clapping like Sean McDermott
Oh, all the
nonstop
time,
too? Is that you?
all the time. I love
Love
it.
that.
That's why I have no voice ever. So I was just, yeah, I'm always going, because there's so much
Hell yeah.
more to the sport than people realize. It's not just, the X's and O's, if you would. It's, if that player had like a bad day and you don't know it, and you're relying on them to do something, like all those things are, they're all wearing on you emotionally. So that's why you kind of gotta, it's like an exhausting way to coach, but it works. That just coach the way they do, which isn't a personable way, which I don't think works, but it does for some, it does and doesn't for others. So
Right. Is there any piece of advice that stuck out that Sean McDermott gave you that you thought was like, this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to apply it to my coaching method? Like, was there something that really stood out in your conversation with him? Was there something that he said? Was there a quote that you took away that was like, man, I got to apply this to my life, got to apply this to my coaching style?
I don't think it was necessarily, because I went to school for psychology, and so like I had a good understanding of the type of person he was just from his mannerisms, even when he's in front of the camera, like you can just tell. So I think more or less it was him reinforcing like everything that I was doing is going to work and it's
Yeah.
successful. And I would talk to him about some of the things that I had going on, and he's like, "That's incredible," and like he's like, "You're light years ahead of coaches your age with your understanding of, how to coach. And so it was cool because like, here's a guy who's an NFL head coach, and he's telling me that the stuff that I'm doing is going to pay dividends, and it already has. And then he kind of asked me why I coach. And, I get calls from kids I coached 10 years ago. They're asking me to be their godfather for other kids, or, and that's those kind of reasons why I coach, more or less than just the actual game. I mean, I love the game. I want kids to go to the highest level they can. But, when he asked me that question, you could tell, like, he's like, wow, he's like, he coaches like I do. Cause I mean, obviously Sean gets paid a lot more than I do coaching, but he's still the same. He's the same person he was when probably he started coaching to now, which is you don't see very often, which I think is huge.
Hell yeah. I love that. Yeah, we got Brett in the chat here. First off, Brett, appreciate you, brother. Yeah, new background. Temporarily going to have this background because this is the new house behind me here. I got nothing but insulation, so I don't want you guys to see that. So I got to act like I'm at least at a Bills presser. Secondly, he's got some comments for you, Jason, just saying, believe in yourself. You're going to do great things. So appreciate that, brother. Hell yeah, Brett. Thank you, man.
So Jake, I guess if you don't have any further questions, let's continue on with the journey, Jason. Yeah. So you guys rent this car, and you have a 3.5 hour drive. And I don't know about you, I'd be nervous just thinking about before that ride, before I even get into the car, what am I going to talk about? It sounds like you probably already knew what you were going to talk about, but can you talk a little bit about what you were going through, and did you already were you comfortable enough already to know what you were going to be talking about?
I think I was, because like I said, I don't really, I have friends that plays pro sports and, ice hockey and other, actors and people that are in music and stuff. So, I grew up, everyone to me is everyone's equal, whether, you're rich and famous or you're just a normal worker. So to me, I really didn't think about much. I mean, Sean went and got the rental car. Me and his daughter, Maddie, went to go check on our luggage. And so I'm keeping an eye on Maddie in the airport. Well, I don't know where he went. And so I'm trying to figure out luggage while constantly looking back because she's younger. So I didn't want, we're at the Pittsburgh airport. So, I grabbed a water and some pineapple, cut pineapple from the one store. And I asked if they wanted anything. And he said, no, we're all set. So we had gotten the rental, and, we were kind of figuring out the lay of the land of the car, because you know how some of those rentals can be. He was going to get his phone cord for the GPS, but I said, no, I'll do it. And then I used my phone for the GPS. And once we got out of Pittsburgh, we just kind of started talking. He asked me a lot of hockey questions, a lot of, it was just like I've known him for 20 years. I don't get nervous really anymore. Because, what's the worst that can happen at the end of the day? Yeah. You're there, you're in the situation, might as well make the best of it. So
that's great. Man. That's great attitude. I wish I had that with Andre Reed, man. I was like,
oh, you did, Mike. Don't sell yourself short. Come on now. He was shooting the shit with us. Like one of us, baby. I feel like every Buffalonian, anyone who's played in Buffalo, coached in Buffalo, I feel like they all really are like one of us. Not too many guys that are big league and other people. You know what I mean? Like that's just it just seems to be the Buffalo way, I guess. I don't know. But
they're big league, cool, but man. They understand the small town vibes that Buffalo gives and what they're about. Like you look at some of these bigger players that come here, they're not flashy, they're not, but they come here for a reason. It's because of Sean McDermott. They want to play for him. I mean, that's really what it takes, is a guy that has that kind of culture and drive that get those players here for not only less money, and they don't cause problems.
Right. Yeah. And there's something to be said about that. I think the way that he's changed the culture around here, obviously he's taken some criticism because you're expecting results, but I think it goes so much farther than that. And I made it a point in one of our shows to bring this up because you can't just replace someone that easily like Sean McDermott. He has totally flip-flopped the culture. I know it's so like cliche and so easy to say, talk about the culture, because he always is pushing that, but it really is a thing. Like go back to any other Bills head coach prior to him. I mean, even probably go back to the Levy days where you really truly felt like there was a culture in the building. After that, we were lost, man. It was just a black hole. People would come to Buffalo and their careers would die. They would come to Buffalo, and after they left Buffalo, typically didn't have a whole lot of great things to say about. Always would say good things about the fans and the city and stuff like that. But the actual, like being inside the building and dealing with the coaching and all that good stuff, it wasn't good stuff at all. So now it's totally different, man.
Yeah, it's different. It's different energy. Like when you go to the games, you go in the stadium. Since McDermott is coaching, and then obviously with Josh Allen and our other players, but the energy is just different. Like you used to go to tailgate and have a good time and go to the games, but you kind of were just you didn't have really, you had high hopes, you wanted them to do well, but also you had that sinking feeling in the back of your throat. You're just like, I don't want to get myself let down. But now it's just like I get to the games and I don't want them to end. I wish football games were longer. That's right. I just love them. So,
is Coach a hockey fan? Any particular team?
Yes, he is. He's gone down on the bench with some of the Sabres for stuff. He goes to a lot of the camps. We talked about that. I don't know if he understands the sport as much that he does with football, obviously, but he loves the sport. He thinks it's a great sport. I know he's done some stuff with the Sabres, and obviously you see him around the rink sometimes, but yeah, he's definitely a hockey fan. So,
all right. So you're on the ride here, and I already know you're going to be talking coaching. So, and I'll ask you first of all. I'll save the Bills question for later if they even talked about the Bills. But can you talk about? So you're a coach of a hockey team. Sean's a coach of a football team. Are there similarities between what you two do, and if so, what are those similarities and styles?
So one of the biggest things I think, especially being a head coach, is like you deal with everything, and Sean had brought that up, and he was just like, no matter what goes on, he's like, I have to either look at it, see it. So he's got all that. I mean, obviously a hockey team is a lot smaller than a football team, but I think that was a similarity, like the stress, like the long days. I mean, there's days I'll be up at 4 a.m. I'll do stuff for coaching. I work. I go to coaching. I'm on the ice for 5-6 hours a night. And then that night I'm either watching film. So, I mean, it's 18, 20-hour days. And you could just tell that it's exhausting. And I think that those similarities are similar. I think the day-to-day preparedness, if you would be similar. But as far as like the X's and O's, that's completely different. But the ideology on how we coach and how you treat players and what you command of them as far as their attitude, their effort, being humble obviously is a huge one for me, and obviously Sean, I know he's got his saying, humble and hungry. But I always tell my players, and me and Sean talked about this, especially when it comes to head coaching, is like, you never can be satisfied. Like you're never good enough. You're not, like, you have to have that drive, because eventually you get complacent and you'll get hurt or someone will. So I think that part of coaching is similar, but as far as the other, like the X's and O's, and obviously coaching football versus hockey, it's very different, because my season's 50 plus games. So we're on the ice 6 times a week between games and practice and off ice training. So I think that's a little bit different, because obviously their seasons, but they got a lot of to get ready for in a short period of time, where for hockey, if we lose a game out of 49, then you can learn from it and move on. So
gotcha. Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just well said, man. I think first off, I got to say this too. I know I talked about your vibes. Freaking love it. You got a coach's voice too. I got to say, I've been listening. I'm honed in. I'm locked in. I'd love to play for you. If I was a player, I'd be all about it, brother. So
thank you.
I could feel that. I really think I'm assuming you're a great coach, and you probably do really great work. I love what you're doing. Obviously, the quote, humble and hungry, I think you really took that to heart, and man, you're doing God's work, doing what you're doing. So I really appreciate it, and just keep doing it, man, for real. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's not, there's days where obviously I was talking to Sean about, he's like, there's days where, especially in his earlier days of coaching, where you're just like, man, why am I doing this? And then when you get past those days, and it's just like, man, there's nothing I'd rather do. And you could see, because I mean, we're human beings. So even Sean McDermott is, he's a head coach, but to get to the path that got him there, it's exhausting. I mean, I've been coaching 13 years now, and obviously my dream is to go on to coach professional hockey at some capacity, if you would. I just got an offer in a lower league, but I declined it because I recently signed with Nichols. But so yeah, I mean, it's just it's an exhausting, but there's nothing I'd rather do. I wouldn't trade coaching for anything in the world. Just wouldn't.
I love that, man. You can tell you're passionate about it, so that goes a long way. And they always say, like, whatever you're passionate about, even though it's technically work, you're never really working because it's stuff that you love to do. So that's great, man. I love it. Just a couple of questions about our teams here in Buffalo. First off, Zach Benson, how you feel about him? You like him? You like the pick?
I think, so, and this is, me and Sean talked about this also, because he asked me about practices, training camp, news. I don't watch anything. I don't, I know who he is. I know who the players we get are, but I don't.
You don't evaluate.
The proof is in how they play. I've seen plenty of guys that look great, practicing, and then you get them into the big stage where the pressure's on them to make a play and they don't do it. So until I see him in a Bills uniform playing in a game that matters, I don't know, because that you can't replicate that pressure. You just can't. And that's why, like, as much as we train players for practice, until they're on the big stage, look at a guy like Josh Allen, right? It took him a couple of years to mature, but now that he understands how to be poised in that pressure, that's what it's take. So when it comes to players, until I see him play in a game, I really don't have an opinion, because, he could play awful his first game and then have the best season of his life, or it could be vice versa. So, but I'm a coach. So, I don't look at the Bills or the Sabres.
It's a great coach's answer, by the way.
I look at it as a coach. Like, everything I look at is a coach. And how can I make that player better? How can I make them feel more comfortable? What can I do to get them to buy into what we're doing? Like, that's what coaching is. It's not, the guys that are there, they have the talent, but now it's like, okay, well, how can we integrate that talent with what we have and make it all get along? And I think that's what people don't understand sometimes. Like, it's not easy to do. I mean, you see some of the guys that we have on the team that, they're big on social media. That affects a lot of other players, and, not in a bad way necessarily, but it's unnecessary distractions. I mean, if you see your teammate always tweeting about stuff, it's just like, how can you focus at practice? Because, did he talk to you about it? Are you like, there's just, so it's really like, I'm a coach, so you're going to get a coach's answer.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. Yeah, I respect it. So I read that you're a Bills season ticket holder as well.
Yeah. Actually, the news actually had that wrong. I just had got them this year.
Okay.
I'm in section 313, I think row 29.
Hell yeah,
so I'm on the 30-yard line.
You got a bird's eye view. That's beautiful.
That's what I wanted. Last year I spent a fortune on tickets. I took my cousin to a lot of games and some other people, and I was just like, you know what? I gotta get seasoned. So I had put my name on the list, and I worked my way up somehow, and I got them, and I'm excited for them. So, and then I just got Sabres seasons too, which I got those mainly because I like to watch, the coaching style. I like to watch what the players do off the puck, and you don't get to see them on TV. And I go to a lot of Sabres games, but I wanted the seats that were my own, so I went with some club seats for the Sabres. So I'm really excited about those.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Hell yeah. I love that too, because for me, I always kind of took a different approach to going to games. Obviously, it's fun to go to a game and whatnot, but for me, it's almost like a business trip, man. Like, I want to watch and really see what's happening. And it's different when you're watching from the television screen. It's not the same.
No.
When you see it in person, you get to see the movement and full force, full speed, all that good stuff. You see the little things that you don't necessarily always catch on television. So
yeah,
I love what you said there. And I'm with you, man. It's like, obviously it's enjoyable. You go to the game because you love the game, right? But to truly evaluate it from more of a coaching perspective, or like, if you're playing and you go to a game and you watch and it's like, I'm going to watch this guy in particular because I want to sort of emulate what he does. Like, I think that's a really cool and different approach, because a lot of these fans, and that's not knocking any other person that just goes to watch, right? Because it's an enjoyable experience, and it's an experience for everyone. I think everyone has a different type of approach to how they take in a game. So I appreciate that answer. That's cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy, like, I go to the Sabres games, and a lot of times I'll bring players that, are up and coming, that are going to eventually go on to play professional, or they play college. So that's why I kind of went with the club seats, just so, like, if we do go, there's kind of like an unwritten rule in the 200s that, celebrities, hockey players, whatever, like, no one bothers each other. Like, everyone's just there for the right reasons, where, in the hundreds, it can be a little rowdy, and then the 300s, it's a lot of rowdy. So, but yeah, I mean, I go, I take face-offs. I I bring a notepad, like just a small, and I'll watch, say, oh, like what forecheck are they running, or can I pick up on, did they adjust the forecheck? What defense are they playing? Because in order to coach, you got to study your trade and your craft. So here's guys that are in the NHL, not only players but coaches, and I can learn from the players how they, did a guy make a mistake? Did he come back to the bench and slam his stick? Did the coach go talk to him? Did he leave him alone? Just that kind of stuff. A guy got injured. Did he leave the bench? Did the coach communicate with the trainer? Like all that little stuff that everyone's just like, oh, why didn't he shoot the puck? Here I am watching. I'm like, okay, was he going to go with
body language?
Yeah, exactly.
That's huge, man.
And hockey's never ending. So where football, there's whistles, right? And I think you see like 11 minutes of actual play. I think they said at one point the average during the game. Hockey is 20-minute periods and it doesn't stop. So coaching hockey is different because you got to adjust on the fly. Where coaching football, you got a lot of parts and obviously it's just as complicated, but you have time, which is, I think, is huge.
That is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, Jason. So back to your ride there. Did you talk any specific Bills topics? For instance, he's taken over the defensive coordinator role, and like you talked about, as a head coach, you're involved in everything. But now a little bit of you is going to be focused more on that defensive coordinator role, which means you have to trust your other coaches. Did you guys get into that at all?
So from a coach to coach conversation, we did talk some Bill stuff. But obviously, that's just between me and Sean. But what I will say is when it comes to that stuff, they have assistant coaches. There's assistant offensive coaches. There's coaches that, might not even be named that we don't know that, have support roles. So I think as far as a distraction, I don't think it will be because, he is the type of coach, I'm the same type of coach that he is. When we put something on our plate, we do it. Like there's no, you don't take something on and not be able to do it. Like you're not, you just don't. And we know that. And I think Sean's the perfect type of example. Like he put it on his plate for a reason. He probably didn't like the candidates that were out there or the guys that he interviewed with. So he's just like, what, if I can't find someone that believes in what we're doing, then I'm going to do it myself. And, and we did talk about the one thing I will talk about. We did talk about, I said, well, what do you do about the positions? You don't necessarily know, you're not an expert on, because let's be honest, how many positions are there in football? And you think every head coach is an expert in every position. And he's like, well, I ask my support staff. I ask my assistant coaches, I take their advice. And that's another good reason why Sean's a great coach is because he's willing to be a teacher and he's willing to be a student as well. And a big part of our conversation was like, he doesn't have an ego. Obviously he's a little bit different with the media and he's a little bit different when he's on camera because, he's head coach of the Bills, but he's like, I don't have an ego. And I'm like, I'm the same way. If someone comes to me and said, hey, have you tried this? That's the type of coach that Sean is. So I think that when he took on that role, he did it exactly because he had a plan. I mean, he does, he has a plan. So
I love that. That fires me up to hear that. It really does. I mean, it's like all of us, right? Even at my job, if I can't find someone to do it right, I mean, I just do it myself. And obviously you're going to need the help of your other coaches, like you talked about, your assistants and stuff like that. But I mean, I just love hearing that. So that's fantastic. Jake, do you have any follow up on that?
Yeah, when in doubt, bet on yourself. Absolutely love it, man. Yeah, and I love what you said about taking something on because there's no way he would have, I guess, taken on this defensive coordinator position in addition to being a head coach and managing everything else if he didn't think he could do it. I mean, he's already been a defensive coordinator before, so I feel like it is obviously a natural fit for him anyways. But I love that. He's betting on himself, and it excites me to see that because what he brings to the table already as a defensive-minded coach, so why not take on the defense, manage it all yourself? I freaking love it, man. I'm here for it.
And I think, and it goes back to, how he got to where he is, like the amount of sleepless nights and, stress that coaching does, even at my level, especially it's exhausting but you learn how to just do it and you get it done. So, like I said, he took on the role because he's going to get it done. Like, that's just what we do. We don't do something, there's coaches that never had to do certain kind of work at that level. And if they took it on, I'd be a little worried because, when things get hard or when pressures apply, character's revealed. So I think that if, a coach that isn't used to the hard work takes on something like that, then it would be an issue. But with Sean, like, I think he's just like, we're going to do it this way. And, it eliminates that maybe disconnect in communication, and he can just, roll with the punches. So I'm so excited for the home opener. I can't even contain myself. So
yeah. Was there anything that surprised you? Like when you were talking to Sean McDermott, was there anything that surprised you? Anything that he said that you're like, whoa, that's interesting. Like I never expected that from Sean McDermott. Like I know you don't put people on a pedestal or anything like that, but obviously there's a different. It's kind of cool talking to a guy that's coaching in the big leagues, and there's things that I'm sure.
I don't. He turned on. He was a person. He wasn't like he was just a normal. When we were in the car, it was like I've known him for like it wasn't Sean McDermott. It was just Sean that's driving me from Pittsburgh to Buffalo. So he was just a normal person, and it I guess it did surprise me a little bit, but I also kind of expected it because he's just like I am, or I'm just like him, if you would, just down to earth, just a regular guy. I tried to pay. It was funny because we were talking about the gas because it went from a full tank to like a half a tank. We had this little SUV, Florida license plates, and the gas. I'm like, oh, I can, no problem. I can pay for the gas or whatever. And he's like, oh no, I didn't mean it like that. It was just like, he's like, this car's not good on gas. And then I'm like, oh, what do you drive? He's like, I have a pickup truck. I'm like, so do I. And
nice.
Just normal, just normal conversations. Like, he told his daughter to, get some rest because, she's had softball tournament and it's almost, 2 a.m. So just, he was a dad and just a guy I was in the car with. So it was, and a coach, and it was kind of cool because, it made it a lot easier on me. I think if it was awkward because he wasn't as personable or if he wasn't as down to earth, I think then I would have kind of forced the conversation. But yeah, no, I think he asked more questions than I did. So
yeah, that's cool, man. How is he as a driver? Aggressive, or is he?
No, like he's normal driver. Like he'll find it was funny because there was no one on the road for a bit, so we were trying to find a lead car so they could speed and not us.
I love that.
But it was he's a good driver. I mean, I asked him if he wanted to drive halfway. He said no, I'm fine. And then we just kind of just kept talking. So
does that guy sleep at all? I know you mentioned you don't really sleep much because you're busy.
So because I think his daughter was like great because you could tell she was like probably great. I got another guy in the car that doesn't sleep. So because we literally talk like we don't.
She probably wanted to sleep.
Yeah, like I think I slept 2 hours when he dropped me off at 2:40. I think I slept. I got to bed by 4 because I had to do a couple emails and I was up for work. I had a couple private lessons, then I had some skates, and then I worked at the restaurant. So on 2 hours of sleep, I did my normal 18-hour day. So
that's awesome, man. What restaurant are you at?
Pasquale's. My friend's family owned it.
Love Pasquale's.
Yeah, I've been there.
Incredible pizza. 2007.
Yeah, I agree. I work a few times a month. I worked at the West Seneca, the one in East Aurora, and then also the one in Derby. I'm mainly in the one in Derby. So,
dude, that's awesome. I just moved to a new house, but I used to live off on North Creek in Lakeview.
Oh, okay, and yeah.
Pasquale's in Derby there. That was like my go-to. We would get pizza there probably once a week. Yeah. So I may have ran into you and not even known it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't have a favorite pizza, believe it or not. I just love Buffalo food in general. So,
yeah.
Some days I like Pasquale's, some days Picasso's. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, there's just so many Bocce's, Imperial. Yeah. I mean, Santora's. I mean, there's just every time I come back from a trip, like as I'm going to Europe, when I come back from a trip, I hit up a pizza and wings place. I usually will hit up Ted's, and then I'll usually do maybe barbell or something, or chefs. I love chefs. I mean, I eat about 4,200 calories a day, so I don't have an issue with.
Nice,
you're on the Phelps diet. I love that, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Everyone told me I'm 31. Everyone told me after 30 that I got to stop eating like that. And I get my blood work every 3 months, and my doctor's like, whatever you're doing, it's working. So I'm like, okay, good. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So,
Jason, so I don't know if, Mike, tell Jason, I guess you don't really have the luxury of being able to do that anymore. You're not in Buffalo anymore. So
Yeah, I'm out here on the West Coast now, SoCal. Grew up in Buffalo, born and raised there.
Oh, wow.
Have friends and family back there, and basically, first of all, I want to say, I've always loved McDermott, respected him, love his leadership, and hearing your story makes me love him that much more. It's just fantastic to hear. He's just a down to earth guy, and some of the things that you said about his style, his philosophy, it just, gets me excited for opening day. But I have to ask you, talking about food, did you happen to ask him where his favorite wing place is? And Jason, where's your favorite wing place?
So we did talk about food. We didn't really talk specifics. There's a restaurant that he likes in Hamburg, and I'll think of it. It'll come to mind. But yeah, my favorite wing place, there's different kind of wings. Obviously I love barbell is a staple for me. It's, if I want a premier, top end wing, I'm going to sit down in barbell. I was just there the other day. I go like 5 or 6 times a month. I was actually at Duff's on Saturday for a coaching meeting.
Nice.
So I eat wings 2 to 3 times a week. So, but I like good wings. Imperial's got good wings. It just depends on what you're looking for. Duff's is a different style wing. Imperial's a different style wing. So there's different styles. So to say I have a favorite, if it's end all be all, it's hands down barbell. The original one.
respect.
You
Hell yeah.
and Jake, man, it must have some type of agreement with him. He just sings
Well,
the
it's-
praises of barbell. Come on now.
I feel like most people are saying that
Yeah.
that live in Buffalo.
Strikers has good wings too. There's a bowling alley in Orchard Park.
Yeah.
Me and my friends will bowl here and there a couple times a month, and they got some really good wings there too. So, but anywhere in Buffalo, you're getting obviously our special sauce with the different ingredients. Some places use margarine, butter when they mix in with the hot sauce, and then obviously the wings that we get, and a lot of it too is that our atmosphere. People don't realize when you cook food. Like sponge candy, you can only get sponge candy in Buffalo, and there's one other place because of the barometric pressure. A lot of people don't realize that goes into cooking food. So when people try to replicate like the dough, they actually have to import water, like down south, or they have to bring water because it's different than. So a lot of times people say,
Interesting.
but yeah, there's so much into cooking, food science. It's I kind of got into a wormhole with it when I'm like, why isn't wings taste good anywhere else? And there was a multitude of answers. So
I did not know that. That's really interesting, actually.
yeah,
That is interesting. I tell the story all the time. I'm here on the West Coast. I can't find a good wing. The other day on Facebook, there's this group in my city, and somebody was asking, where in Temecula are there good wings? And usually I don't get into those things, but I had to jump on. I'm like, there's none. Take a flight to Buffalo as soon as you can, and I'll give you a few places to go. And then one person hit me back. He says, I'm from Buffalo, and the Epic wings are fantastic. I'm like, nah, I tried them twice. They're just inconsistent. And I did want to say, have you tried, I heard this place called Wing Nuts is getting a lot of, I don't know, up and coming. Have you tried them yet?
Yeah, actually, so they started off in the basement of a church. So my one friend Brendan Pacella, he's actually in Kansas City. He just finished up med school. He's moving, but he is a wing nuts fanatic. To me, they're more of like they're not breaded, but they're kind of like a mix between KFC wings, like kind of like that consistency. For me, it just doesn't do it. I like the crispy, saucy but not saucy, kind of like a good first bite, then you get the chewy in the middle without, I like that. So wing nuts for me doesn't do it, but they are very good. They're just not. I'm not going to go out of my way to go to wing nuts.
It's not a normal Buffalo style. It's a little different. I like the sauce on some of them. A couple of them are a little weird, but they're regular, like they're mild. It's not really mild, but it's just a good sauce. Actually, it's not bad.
And to break into the wing market in Buffalo, you have to have a unique taste and kind of. So it's kudos to the guy who started it, because anyone can just open up a pizza and wing place, but to have something and call it what they do, wing nuts, that already gets your attention. And then when you have it, you're like, wow, I just can't put my finger on it. It's different. So, and I really feel like that's why he's got that niche. They're not for me personally, but I'll go there if my friends are going, but everyone to each their own, right? So
yeah,
we need to get Jason.
How about
on.
this one?
We talk food a lot, and we're gonna have to have Jason on.
Oh, blue cheese.
Oh yeah, okay.
Next question, Brett. Brett's from Florida.
I have a case from the restaurant in my fridge of blue cheese.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I buy a case. I love it. So
Are you a Rudy's or Marie's guy? If you have to pick store bought.
So Marie's actually they make specially formulated blue cheese for pizzerias. So
Mm,
if it's that one, yes, but if it's the salad dressing one, no. Rudy's is
yeah.
good, but it's a little too cheap or too what's the word? It's a little too hot for me, if you would, or too high on the blue cheese scale. I don't know what the rating is of that, but I do
Yeah.
like it. I mean, I'll eat it if it's there, but I can't think of the name of the cup that I have in the fridge who makes it, but I buy them from the restaurant. They're specially formulated for the pizzerias. So
That's awesome.
I
I
love that
love
we're
this.
talking food, man. We
Yeah.
talk food all the time. It seems like no matter what we're talking about, we get into food. But and we'll bring Jason on for another one of those food talks.
yeah,
But Jason, just I mean, appreciate your time. I mean, we're going on 45 minutes of your time, and I know it's late back there, but I
yeah,
do
no
want to
problem.
end with, something that you said. I'm going to let you share it. You said McDermott liked a saying that you have. Can you share that saying?
Yeah. So it the saying is, don't forget where you came from, but don't let people tell you where you can go in life. And he really said he liked it because obviously he came from where he did, and he started from the bottom of the food chain. He worked his way up to be roots of what got him there. And, all the players that I coach, some that go on to play, whether it's club hockey to, professional hockey, the ones that are the most successful are always the ones that, never forget where they came from, obviously. And then they didn't let people set limitations on them. I mean, there's people that have told me, I'm never going to be successful in coaching. I didn't play anywhere for hockey. I didn't go far enough and, I just, you can't let people set those limitations. I think the only limitations you have is your mindset and what you believe. Your mindset's either your greatest asset or your biggest enemy. So, and he really liked that because I think he's, humble and hungry. I think it's similar to his. And he's just like, wow, that's incredible. He's like, he's like, I'm going to follow you at Nichols, make sure, I'm going to keep an eye out, see what you're doing. So, I didn't ask him for his phone number. I did not. I respected him. He dropped me off. I said thanks. We took that picture of us in the car. And originally it was just to send my brother, he's older. He's a little bit older than me. He's 12 years older than me. So, and I just, I'm just like, because he's, who's gonna believe it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then we fist bumped. I shook his hand, fist bumped, and then grabbed my bag and I said, good luck this year. I'll be going to all the games, the home games, and see you around or see you later. And it was just really cool because, I had no intention of contacting the media. I had no intention of anything. But I'm just sitting there, I'm finishing emails for something and I'm sitting there. I'm just like, man, I'd like to post on Instagram. I travel around the world. I like it. I think it's motivational for other people. I think it, if someone's questioning, a choice they're making, I just go and do it. So, I posted it and it just took off. I think I woke up maybe 6:30, log in for work. And, I looked at my phone and, I think every reporter from here to Syracuse added me on Instagram and Facebook. And then they started reaching out to me and I contacted a guy I used to coach his kid. He's pretty high up at WGR. And I asked him about it. I said, listen, what do I do? Like what? And he's like, is this like, what's your advice? And he said, it's an amazing story. He said, and I said, well, I want it to be positive for Coach McDermott. I wanted to, reflect his coaching style. I wanted to show that, he's just a normal guy. And so I talked to him and he kind of told me, he's like, okay, he's like, just, make sure you just speak from the heart, just tell the truth, like everything that happened. And I did it. And it was funny because he had called me after he heard a couple of my interviews and he's like, you're a natural. He's like, it's like literally talking to a head coach of a professional team, obviously without that camera experience. And he's like, man, everyone's loving it. So I'm just glad it came out in that light because like I said, I don't like attention. I don't like this, not necessarily but I'm not that type of, I'm just not that type of person. I just don't need the clout, if you would, from it. Like it's a little weird now because I go places and people are staring at me. So
might get some free food or something.
That's a taste of what Sean McDermott probably has to deal with too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys are sharing that now.
Yeah, and he's always been, and it's cool because like I always, we talked about that a little bit because I asked him about the media, and he's part of he's like, it's part of the job. I'm respectful. They respect my time, I respect their time, and I said a lot of the players that I deal with, or he deals with, if you would, there's a time limit. Like the players can't sign there and sign stuff for 3 hours. Like they don't realize it's a long day, and I think that.
Yeah.
Once you learn that balance, and Sean knows, just like when we were waiting for the airplane in Pittsburgh, he had gotten there first. He was eating a salad and something, and his daughter was eating something. And, I said, hey, were we able to secure a car and stuff like that? And, I started reading my book, and I think some of the Pittsburgh people knew who he was, but no one bothered him because they could see he was eating. Like, I think there's a balance, and I think that, you have to understand that balance. And with Sean, I think that he does it. He's in the public's eye. He's, obviously the head coach of the Bills, and a couple of the reporters, they like, you could tell they were just not the reporters, but the camera guys. They were just straight jealous. Like they're like, man, like you just sat in the car, like off camera. He's like, you were just sat in the car with Sean McDermott for 3 hours. And I'm like, yeah. And he's just like, it's not a big deal to you, is it? I'm like, no, because I'm a coach, and like, he's just a dad bringing his daughter home from softball. So we, I didn't bring up the Bills once. He brought it up a few times about certain things, and we talked, and, from a coach to coach standpoint, and, it was kind of surreal. So it's something I'll never forget. But to me, and, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching or will see this, they're just like, man, that's crazy how it's not a big deal. But like I said, when you're in my shoes as a coach, you don't want to come off as that guy because it does you no good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I read a question on Facebook. The one guy's like, man, I would have fired off a few questions, and I just laughed.
It's always easy to say it behind screen or, after the fact.
Yeah.
I love that you were respectful of him, and obviously it's just another person, right? But
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now, okay?
Go ahead.
I have a theory that a good coach is a good coach, and it doesn't matter if it's necessarily not even his sport. If he's a good coach, he'll be able to adapt. I watched Ted Lasso a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting take on things, right? This is a guy that coached football, and then he goes overseas and coaches a different type of football, right? So,
yeah.
Hypothetical situation: Sean McDermott comes up to you and says, "Hey, I got a spot for you on the Bills. You want to come coach for me?"
I would definitely have to evaluate the impact it would have on, my other commitments and things that I was doing. Obviously, I don't think I would just jump and say yes. I would have to really think it through and, see what my role would be and understand, fully what the job would be and what I would be entitled to do. But yeah, I think if you can learn anything if you want to. Just like the one position in hockey I never knew anything about was goalies. So I'm actually now a goalie coach. I trained a guy named Bob Janos. I trained his two boys, Riley and Reese Janos. They're actually up and coming hockey players in the area. Arguably, Riley's probably the best 7-year-old in North America. And then Reese Janos is probably, top 10. They're that good. But
Damn.
Bob has Bob Janos Goalie School, and I got with them about 4 or so years ago, and I learned the position. Now I'm a trained goalie coach, and I never played goalie. I know how to put the puck in, but one of the reasons I train players how to shoot the puck and how to score. So I'm like, if I can learn how goalies are being taught, now I can learn how to coach against what they're being taught, if that makes sense.
Right.
So in the short, long answer, yes. I mean, obviously I think I would, if it was a natural right position and I wasn't, biting off more than I can chew, then I would do it. But I would definitely have to digest and, see what exactly it would entail. So
I could see if Mr. McDermott knows you're at the game, he's like, hey, I know Jason's got season tickets this year. Can someone go get him? I have a question. It's going into halftime. But hey, you were very respectful, Jason. You did a fantastic job. I really love everything that you talked about, and I'm pretty sure if Coach McDermott is seeing any of this, he's going to be, man, I knew this kid was great, and he just made me understand that even more how great he really is. And I love your saying. I mean, never forget where you came from, but never let people tell you where you can go in life. And I can see him using that with the Bills at some point in this, in the season. I mean, that's so powerful. So absolutely love it. Jake, I mean, we've taken enough of this young man's time. He's probably got coaching duties tomorrow somewhere early. And do you have any closing thoughts? And let's wish him on
No, I
his
just
merry way.
really I appreciate your perspective, man. I appreciate you giving us some time today, and this is an awesome interview. And shout out to Jay Heidi for connecting us.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
you,
Jay.
Jay. Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
The one thing I will close with is the one thing he did bring up in the car, which I thought was really cool. And he's like, "This is why I love coaching in Buffalo." Was when we were on standby, and there was, I think at the time, by the time standby list closed, there was 49 people, and it's an algorithm how they figure it out. But what Coach McDermott said in the car was like, you know what I loved about this whole situation is when someone got called for the actual ticket for the flight, everyone on standby was clapping. And he's like, that's Buffalo. And that's it's just, he thought about that in the car ride, like an hour, I think it was an hour and a half into the conversation. He's just like, man, he's like, this is why I love Buffalo. He's like, only in Buffalo do we clap for, we're all tired, exhausted, and the standby people are clapping for the people that are getting on the plane, knowing very well we're not getting on the plane. So I thought that really just showed who he was as a person, which was cool. So
I love that.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, everyone. Well, listen, thank you again, Jason, Jake. Thank you for always joining, as always. And hey, if you're new to the channel and after you've just heard Jason talking, please like, comment, and smash that subscribe button for us. We always say drop a nickel on that subscribe button here at Nickel City Mafia. But this is, I love it. Like, I mean, people are talking camp battles right now, like with the camp just around the corner a couple days. And I love these stories. These are just great stories to hear. So thanks again, Jason. And hopefully we'll see you soon, man. I love your food talk as well. So I'll have to reach out to you again, man.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to go to Jim's Steakhout after this and grab a sub.
Oh, there you go.
I'm hungry, but
you guys, don't do that to me. Come on now. Gosh.
You guys have some good food on the West Coast. So
you got your tacos.
We have good Mexican food, but
yeah.
Guys are hurting me. All right, you guys have a good night. Take care now.
You too.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. See you guys. Goodbye.
See you, brother.